Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com. Hello, everybody. Let me see if I can get to the layout here. I think I have suddenly put myself away some way, somehow. Let's see, we go. Excellent. Hey there, Mishaal. How are you?
Hey. Good. How's it going, John?
Doing well. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. Look, hey, we're having some fun this week. We thought we'd do maybe a Just Hacking training kind of live stream week to help hype up and help kind of beat the drum for the upcoming live training that we're doing at Bsides Chicago. Now, I know I've been screaming and shouting about this for a little bit. I know I've kind of beaten the dead horse, but it's something that we're seriously super stoked to bring out. We got a whole lot of our great folks, some cool all-star instructors, and really the cadre for Just Hacking training. Mishaal, of course, included, teaching some OSINT, open source intelligence. Ellie Daw will be there with some vibe coding for responsible adults, some AI, some teamwork there. We've got Trevor Stavato, who's showcasing some hardware hacking with the take-home kit. And I'll be teaching some script-based malware analysis. So tons of fun stuff for like a full exclusive in-person training day. You get to hang out with us. Food is all included, so we'll have some lunch, chow down, enjoy the time together, and really have that value, being in person. But, what do you think, Mishaal? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rambling.
No, absolutely. It's going to be fun. It's going to be an interesting training, interesting city, and a nice conference where you can actually get to chat with people, interact with a lot of folks. It's not like a DEF CON or a Black Hat or something that's unmanageable. So I think I prefer smaller conferences like this. You get the more personalized experience. So I'm excited.
I am very grateful. Bsides Chicago was willing to extend that lock note, or I guess the closing keynote, to me. So very flattered and honored for that opportunity. And then we'll have a whole ton of fun with some of the Just Hacking training there, all part of the endeavor. But how have you been, man? Mishaal, I know you've been a little bit all over the place. You've been out on travel. You've been out training. Yeah, where have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, last week it was Wild West Hacking Fest, so that was fun. Lots of interesting OSINT training. I had my 2-day live in-person next level OSINT training there. That went pretty well. Lots of folks there. I followed up by a workshop, a free workshop for everyone around OSINT. There's a lot of interest in open source intelligence. I've been doing that type of training throughout the year at both Wild West Hacking Fest. Now there's 2 of those, and now a couple of B-sides, and then there's Simply CyberCon on the 1st, going there as well, similar training there. So yeah, I'm all over the place, enjoying between in-person trainings, flights, webinars like these. It's fun. I mean, I don't know how much I can take or how long I can last, but I want to find out.
Yeah, I know you always kind of work harder than you think you can. But then a lot of good stuff seems to come that way whenever you do.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. The best part is like I love doing all of this stuff, so it comes naturally. It's not like work per se. It's just a lot of those flights and stuff. They kind of tend to wear you down a little bit, the lack of sleep and stuff. But stuff like this, what I do, demonstrate excitement around intelligence, around cybersecurity, around data, and then enable others to like use this skill for good. That's what drives me. Like that's my huge motivation factor.
I love it. I think that's where you see a lot of the most like tactical, real world difference, even taken out of the ones and zeros of the computer screen, but like look, it's people at the very same end of this. And when you're tracking bad actors, when you're looking or hunting down criminals, sometimes that open source intelligence skill set certainly comes in handy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Well, I super appreciate you making some time for us to chat and hang out, especially while you've been running around doing all this stuff. I know that's October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I'm
Mm.
feeling the same, coming off of a lot of travel. I just got back from Bsides Nova, and then we'll have Bsides New York City coming up soon, just next week, and then even more nonstop track.
Weren't you in the Cayman Islands as well earlier this
Yes.
month?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Did Bsides Cayman Islands. We'll have Bsides Chicago. I have Saint Con just as well. So
Yeah. Wow.
busy month for all of us for sure.
Nice. Well, if you allow me to share my screen, I can tell your audience a little bit of like I can show them what to expect at one of my trainings and what I usually do and my style of showing OSINT. Let me share my screen here.
Yes,
Let me
please.
do
If you've got any show
share.
and tell, would love to see a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
wide world of open source intelligence. And I know you've gone through a ton of these and either hack along activities,
Mhm.
exercises to follow along with the video, and then a gamut array, like a big buffet of different courses, whether that's the beginner level open
Oh,
source
yeah.
intelligence or leveling up or next level OSINT. You've got quite quite a array here.
Yeah, and as I walk through some of these tabs and surface level examples, you'll get a flavor of all of that from beginner level to intermediate to advanced, from network-based OSINT to people hunting to journalistic stuff, and you'll get a taste of everything with the few minutes that we have here. So, I mean, usually what I do is walk through people from basic stuff, which is Googling stuff like with Google dorking, like use the things like file type, PDF, words after it, put stuff in like quotes, use special characters. Like there's a lot you can do with just Google, and that's kind of the basic level OSINT, which most people know of. But in most of my courses, I don't even touch Google. I'm like, yeah, Google is for the rookies. It's for like surface level stuff. But after you pass that level, it's all the sources of the data. So I always tell people, look for alternatives. You're using Google, fine. Let's move on to the next step. Are you using Yandex for things? Are you using Baidu? Are you using DuckDuckGo? Because sometimes you're going to get very different results. And this comes from a lot of experience knowing how things work. So I always focus on how does Google work? It indexes stuff and things can be removed from the index. Things can be added to the index. It's all search engine optimization. But Yandex's bots are different. It indexes stuff in a different way. Simple example, if you type in like, file type PDF, I'm looking for PDFs that are maybe US confidential information. You're going to get a certain number of results here. You do the same thing in Yandex, you're likely going to get more stuff because it's Russian. Do it in Baidu. They're Chinese. They're going to have more dirt on the US, so to speak. In the US, you can take down a lot of stuff. You can just click on these three dots here and you can, say remove results because of whatever reason, legal or personal info and stuff. You may not be able to do the same in a Yandex result. So if you're not finding something in one place, look for other places. So the whole point of a lot of the OSINT that I do is due diligence. Like, are you looking at all the places that data could possibly be? And this opens up people's minds. So I'm not really teaching tools, I'm teaching techniques. And sure, in the process, there's hundreds of tools you can use. But that saying, like, teach a man to fish, or give a person a fish, they'll survive for a day, but teach them how to fish and they'll survive a lifetime, or whatever that saying is. I'm basically teaching you how to catch fish at this point. And then I go straight into actual data brokers. I'm like, this is the source of a lot of stuff, things like fastpeoplesearch.com, spokeo.com. Now this is going a little bit deeper. You're leveling up your OSINT by going straight to data brokers. And a lot of these searches don't show up in in Google search results because maybe people have taken this off. Their phone number was here or email address was showing, and Google will remove it. So I'm like, look at different types of data brokers too. Like, this is just a public data broker, but then there's crowdsourced data brokers. So like
May I do the
Truecaller.
annoying? Oh, could you zoom in a smidge?
Oh yeah,
Any plus plus? Yeah. Thank you
there
so
we go.
much. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I have large screens here. I'm like, I can see pretty well. But yeah. So yeah, some of these as you can see, the bulk of the data brokers they're just collecting data. And again, let's get to the source. How are they getting this data? All this, no human being is like putting this in manually about their name, location, addresses, and no, this is all through bots, through scraping and stuff, and they get it wrong every now and then. So I'm like, another way to get data is through crowdsourcing information. Apps like truecaller.com, and there's a bunch of others for every aspect of information, for addresses and stuff like that. They get information from people installing this app on their phone. Someone asked me in my class, they're like, why would somebody install an app like this that asks for your information and downloads your entire contact list and then lets you search? I'm like, yeah, people do it. That's why these apps are popular. And they're like, oh, we're providing you with some service here where we're giving you like scam protection and whatever. Most phones will do this out of the box right now as a default setting. But whatever, apps like this exist, people use it, people upload their entire phone book here. So the data you get out of these apps is stuff that someone has put. If that was your phone number, like anything like 8675309, I use this as an example, you usually get data about like the caller ID information. It may say my dealer or something, because that's what somebody stored in their phone. You may get, brother-in-law or that jerk or whatever. So you get a little bit more information about the person, not just their actual first name, last name, like you get in data brokers like Spokeo or Truecaller or Fast People Search. So mix it up. I always say go to different sources of data and find out more information about it. Now you can dig even deeper with that and spread it across with some automation. And these are things I teach in all sorts of courses, from intermediate to advanced, even basic stuff. Things like automating username enumeration, things like what's my name.app, or I go into a lot of the Linux tools. And the good thing about our courses is in the platform, there's VMs built in. So you'll get a Kali Linux VM and you'll be able to install some of the Linux tools that do username enumeration, phone number enumeration, and a lot of other things that we can't do very easily on a web browser. But there's things outside of the web world as well. So all those things you get as a bundle with the course, with the notes and everything else. But we start going more and more advanced as things progress to kind of show you a flavor of what's out there. And again, I'll reiterate, the goal here is to open up people's minds into thinking, oh, I can go from Google to data brokers to Kali Linux to APIs and then extract so much data. There's so many ways to do this. And it's just a matter of not giving up. The whole point here is to tell people that there's data, don't give up, try different things. And I'm giving them a unique perspective into where to look for. It's surprising to a lot of people. They're like, we never knew that there was tools like this where I can go through hundreds of iterations. Let's say I do John Doe as a username, or that's too common. Let's say John Doe 0, and I click search. After I solve this CAPTCHA, it will search a couple of hundred, 680 websites. This could not be done manually. It's just going through so many different sources, and it's giving me like a smaller list, like 10, 11 found right now. That's a very manageable thing to go through manually at this point. But that's how these websites work. They make your job easier, and we use a little bit of automation. And in some cases, we even use a little bit of AI in this. Any questions, comments from your end, or do we have any comments on this publicly? I didn't ask.
A couple of them more that are like, oh, can you zoom in? Can you zoom in? Plus.
Okay.
But hey, whenever that's the gentle reminder every time we hit a new tab or anything fun. Okay, so I liken this, I guess, somewhat to similar tools of the harvester or some of the things that are now trying to get a handful of other different accounts or different usernames based off of just one breadcrumb, and then trying to see where else online is this registered, or does it exist, right? Are there others, or is this what's my name web one the one you most commonly go to?
So good question, because I have a short list of things I always go to. So if I have a username, I'll try the web version first, like what's my name.app. If this site is down or it's limiting, there's others. There's Sherlock, which is pretty popular online. Then there's forks of Sherlock on GitHub called Magrit. I use that a lot. So it'll give me another set of around 500 different websites. And sure, there'll be an overlap, but this is doing my due diligence. There may be a 50% overlap between this tool and another tool, but I got to try it all because the other tool may give me data that this one didn't. Like the other day, I was doing something and this has Medium in it, like a medium.com account, and I found someone's profile there, but the other tool didn't. I'm like, oh, cool. So that's a pretty popular website, but one tool caught it, the other one didn't. Also, some tools skip data. You have to realize how this works again. So if I go in the network tab, inspect and go network, and you'll see that there's a lot of activity going on in the network tab. So these websites are going through your browser, and you'll see a lot of things that are blocked. So maybe your browser is blocking something, your network is maybe blocking certain websites. That's why they have stuff like filters, not safe for work. Like, should I search for all or all excluding not safe for work? Because your DNS filter may be blocking certain categories. So you're not getting complete data every time. And you'll only know this if you're a little bit tech savvy and take the time to spend on how tools work, how these techniques work. And then you do it on the Linux version and you're like, all right, it has maybe certain other limitations there too. So it's a whole exercise of spreading out your tools and trying different things so that you're not dependent on one. And in investigations, you never want to be dependent in one website, one tool, because as we all know, in cybersecurity and in intelligence and stuff, tools break all the time. If you don't have full control over it, you should be worried.
There was one question that was asking the website you had just before Truecaller. I don't know if you're looking back in your tabs. Is that
Fast People Search?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like 50, 60 of these I have in my bookmarks list, like Fast People Search. But like you asked, like, are there a few that I use? Yeah, it's usually True People Search, Fast People Search. These are the big, like, easy data brokers I would start off with. And I would basically pivot off of that. If I don't find my target on these bigger ones, then I would go to like whitepages.com, yellowpages.com, and try my luck on those resources. And I have all of them like in my bookmarks list, which I share with people who take the training, and I have them in nice little categories. Sorry, I can't zoom into a bookmarks list, only into a web page, but you'll see I have it categorized as breaches or photos or emails. Like, what am I looking into? If email is my pivot point, my first seed information, I'll just go through my list here. I'm like, all right, what have I missed from an email perspective? And that pivots off to, oh, from an email, I found a username. All right, let's go into the username section. What are the tools in my tool set that I can possibly use for that? So it basically, that's the process that I teach, is due diligence, go through everything one by one. And sure, it takes time. Like, I have a 5-minute search I do on people just to know, who I'm about to meet or who this person is, a general scenario. I have a 1-hour version of that personal OSINT search that I would do. And if someone hires me for proper due diligence, I'll go through everything. And that may take me days or weeks even to do a proper investigation based on how much data I find. So, but the whole point is I have enough techniques, enough tools that I can go on and on and on. And that honestly scares a lot of people. They're like, oh, when do you stop? I'm like, when I need to.
Some good questions that were being asked. Hey, are these sources free to access? I mean, most of those that you work through usually are, right? I think some might have some paid or tier subscription thing, right? Or
I tend to stick to all free. So when I'm teaching a course, there's nothing there that you have to pay for. Things like maybe Shodan, for example, does have a paid version, like a $5 lifetime fee sometimes, or a few dollars a year, but the free version suffices. It's good enough. So I stick to only free. I don't expect anyone to pay for premium versions of any of these tools. And I kind of shy away from these things. Like, even data broker tools like this, if you kind of dig in a little bit deeper into something, at some point they'll be like, oh, pay $4, like here, full background report. We'll get you arrest records, warrants, felonies, blah, blah, blah. And if I click through, at some point it'll ask me a couple of bucks. I will never pay for this stuff. This is all advertising. This is all ways for them to make money. At the end, they're like, oh, we didn't find anything more than whatever was displayed here. And plus, I know better ways to find it. Like if it says arrest records, all right, let me go to the county records of whatever, Austin, Texas, and look it up myself. That's OSINT as well. That's under my government portals section somewhere in my bookmark. So I'll get to it eventually. And the way I get to it is through OSINT and not through paywalls like this. And that's better because that data can now be presented to my client, to law enforcement, to whoever's looking at it. It can be reproduced. And that's the whole goal of this. You want to give people this data so that they can reproduce it without any effort.
And some folks are seeing maybe free people search not letting them through. I don't know if it's blocked or some folks using a VPN here and there.
Yeah. So sometimes VPNs will block it. Maybe your browser has some plugins like uBlock Origin or something that may be blocking some telemetry and whatnot. So you may have to fiddle around in some cases. Or that's why I have a lot of different options. If fast people search doesn't work, I just go to truepeoplesearch.com or cyber background checks. Like I know these by heart because I do this a lot. But that's why I have like a curated list of things I go through under person search. I'm like, all right, Redaris, advanced background checks, white pages, cluster maps. Like that's kind of my shorthand list of things to kind of look through when I'm doing people searches. And sure, some will be blocked sometimes. So swap VPNs. If one doesn't work, just change country, change location, and it may work. It may give you a few captchas every now and then, but that's how the internet is nowadays.
Some questions coming through. A lot of folks are thinking like, oh, wow, okay, I can see a whole lot of this data that's already out there. How do we get our own data removed? Is there a way to limit that blast radius? Is there data broker things? What's that conversation?
That's usually the first question I get like halfway through my presentation. They're like, oh my God, this is too much data. I'm like, I know what you're thinking. We'll get to it eventually. That's kind of the anti-OSINT piece or the privacy part of things. And yeah, sure. Like I have my own portal, operationprivacy.com, where I kind of publish all my quote unquote trade secrets on how to get your data out. But that's basically the inverse of OSINT. Once you know, like step one, you need to know how to find it. So if you're not good at OSINT, you won't be that great at privacy. You'll be struggling. So be good at OSINT, at least the beginner level OSINT, find data on yourself. And then all of these data brokers have a way to opt out. Like if I just do a cursory search here, go under do not sell my personal data at the bottom, it'll have links on, all right, what's your rights, what's the opt out. So somewhere they'll have a way, like in this case, opt out form. And I zoom in here, opt out, just fill out the form with your name as you see it on the website, a dummy email address, authorize, and I'm not a robot and stuff, and go through the process. And they will remove it. So all of them have a way to remove it. And I've documented these things in my portal called operationprivacy.com. And it's free for people to kind of go through this. And it's basically a glorified checklist of things to do, like things to accomplish in terms of data privacy. So that comes after OSINT. Nice. But if you know how to find stuff like really deep, it really opens up your mind into having better privacy practices. Like there are tools like that here, which are not truly on the surface web, that are not Googleable. They're behind API calls. Like there's a tool called epios.com, where if you go in the tool and put in like a Gmail address, like I'll put in ironman@gmail.com, and let's say this was my subject that I want to search through. I solve this CAPTCHA, and it goes through a Google API, which would have been very hard to do otherwise. And so it goes through a lot of different things, like have I been pwned? We can do that manually and see there's 126 places this person has breaches available. But somewhere down, I'm interested in the Google side. So through a Google API, it found the Google Maps profile of this person, which you can't figure out very easily because to go to a Google Maps URL, you need, slash map slash, there's this whole number at the end here, which is their Google ID. Sure, you can get it manually. It will take you 5 minutes, but this took like a few seconds. If you click on that, it goes to ironman@gmail.com's map profile, which is this guy, Damon here. Don't mean to dox him or anything, but this is public info at this point. And then you suddenly start digging into deeper things like where did this person leave a review? All right, California, now I have a location. Before I had just an email address and no name. Now I have a name and a location. Now I can dig deeper. And so you start going deeper and deeper and realize, man, there's so many ways that I could find data. And this was just one API. We also saw in the same person's profile the have I been pwned section. So if I quickly bounce there and do like bob@gmail.com, let's pick on a totally random email address, 388 breaches. So just how I pivoted off of an API in the previous one, here I could pivot off of a breach and say, all right, this person was part of Vietnam Airlines breach. I don't know what that is, but apparently it exists online, and that breach has a potential date of birth, loyalty program number, a phone number. Cool. So if I started with Bob, I can get his phone number if I can get to this airline's breach. And then there's like hundreds of others, Canva breach or Creams, whatever cafe. There's going to be hundreds of other places where I can look for this stuff. So now it's just giving me more and more verified possibilities. Like I know this data exists. I just need to go find it. And one other thing I kind of do often is let's take this concept a little bit further from APIs, like known APIs like a Google API, to hidden APIs, or at least places where you're not supposed to find this data, like things like O'Reilly Parts or Carvana.com, or I do this at kellybluebook.com, all places where you can find information about cars. Now, their goal is something different than what we're trying to achieve. Their goal is obviously to sell you brake parts and tires and stuff. And in order to make that easy, they're asking you for information about your vehicle. Like, what's your state for your plate? Let's say California. What's your plate number? Let's say it's a vanity plate called Hacker. You search for your car, and it gives you 2007 GMC Sierra. Now that they're using an API to pull that data, probably buying it from a DMV or like a broker that gets it from a DMV, and you're getting that API response without really paying for that very expensive API or that access. Now, obviously, the use case of this is now that you have a car, you're going to be able to find the right parts for that and not screw up on your tires or whatever. But we're using it as investigators to say, hey, I have a partial plate or a full plate number. What car was that? I knew it was like a pickup truck or an SUV, but I didn't get the make, model, or whatever. Cool, you can use this technique if you have partial information. And like I'll repeat what I said before, like you can't rely on one thing. So if this fails, I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, if one website gives me information, what about other car websites? So I tried this on Carvana, on Kelley Blue Book, and a few others, and similar results. I'm getting the exact same thing. Like the most popular one for this is Carfax. So we've all used Carfax at some point. Carfax is expensive now. It's like 45, 50 bucks for a report. You could do the same thing in Carfax and get the VIN number of a vehicle just from a plate and information about a vehicle all for free by looking at the network tab. So those type of advanced techniques I show people and say, sure, this is OSINT. It may not be conventional OSINT, what you've been taught. It may not be ethical. In some cases, it may not be legal, but it is a way to get information and data. I'm not teaching all those other fields. I'm not a lawyer and stuff, but bad guys are using this, good guys are using this for good, and it is a way to think outside the box, think creatively, and find information.
I'll help out here because I know I didn't mean to have you talking for too long all out on an island. But I'd love to ask, when you have, like, as you mentioned, just a ton of different rabbit holes to fall down. Hey, you're getting hundreds or thousands of results to now go explore. How do you, or can you tell when you are not on the right target, or okay, you're no longer tracking what you thought you were tracking and you're just a little bit hesitant? I've gone somewhere else. How do you handle those? Yeah.
Good segue. This is how I handle it. I created a large mind map in Obsidian. And this is a feature I use in Obsidian a lot, the mind mapping feature. It's called the canvas feature. And this is to prevent two things, or help me in two things. Prevent going into rabbit holes. So if, let's say, John Doe is my person of interest, and I go through all of his data and I see, let's say, a Jason Doe is his relative or a Jane Doe is his wife. All right, I can't find much about John Doe, then I'll start going in this rabbit hole. All right, Jane Doe. And then from Jane Doe, it leads to their cousins or kids or relatives and friends. And then something interesting I found. Before I know it, I'm a few hops away from my target. So every so often, as I'm researching, I look back at this and say, how far away am I from my target? So if I went to, the person's cousin, let's say here, and I'm like, all right, this is this person's whatever. I'm 1, 2 hops away now. So I'm like, all right, up to 2 hops away, I'm still okay. But anything more than that, I'm going too deep, far away from the center of the circle. Let me stop, get back to this, go somewhere else where I can spend better time and get better results. So this way, I'm staying closer to the center and not going into rabbit holes. So that's one thing, which is very important. And the other thing that this inadvertently does is allow me to do my due diligence and say, all right, I've done domains, I've done addresses. Do I know where that person was educated? What university and high school? All right, let me look at my resources on maybe LinkedIn, maybe classmates.com will tell me high school and stuff. So it allows me to look at different categories of OSINT so that I do my due diligence and get the bigger picture before I go too far off the rails and go into those rabbit holes. So
I didn't
hopefully
even
that
think
gives
of
more clarity.
classmates.com. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, in classmates.com, you get like old pictures of people, like black and white photos of like their high school stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it's always amazing to put that stuff in a report, even though it may be meaningless in some aspects. People are like, all right, so what? I went to high school there. But it's always surprising to people that are like, oh, you got a really old picture of me. I'm like 40, 50, 60 years old, and you got a picture of me when I was in like, eighth or ninth grade or something. I'm like, yeah, it's like, it's all out there. And people are like, oh, I thought only my recent data is out there, but like, 30-year-old data is still floating around on Classmates. I'm like, yeah, I can see who you hung out with when you were a kid. You have group pictures in there, and your real name is there, or your middle name was there, and like full name. So people are always surprised because they don't expect that this data would be on a publicly accessible website.
When folks are learning OSINT, I know oftentimes even I think you suggest like, hey, try to go see what info and data is out about on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's kind of sometimes the scariest part of all that's out there. But imagine just scrolling through, the yearbook pictures, classmates, high school.
Yeah,
I gotta go
sometimes it's
look at that.
embarrassing. It's like, oh, you had hair back then. So it's a lot of like shock and awe, and it's sometimes you need that in a report just to get a person's attention. Like you get their businesses and stuff. He's a CEO, but oh, you found a childhood picture of them, or someone posted something really old about them. Like I don't want that on the internet. That was a past version of me. It's just, it feels compromising sometimes, even though it's not. But sometimes you need to add those things to prove a point.
Some questions in chat if you were before you were going too much further. Is there any sort of like, I don't know, structure or template, or when you put together a report like a full-blown PDF, what does that kind of look like? I don't know if there's anything that you could or would be willing to share, but is it the just structured sections of what comes next and then the next, etc.?
Yeah, so I tell people to create their own polished report, and I show them an example of my own reports for my own company. And for obvious reasons, I can't share those in the public realm, but I do show them. I walk through the report in the course, and I walk through every section and say it's basically mimicked off of this mind map. And all the little blocks you see in this mind map, like address. So I'll have a section of the person's addresses and say, here's where the address was found. But in a mind map, you minimize the information because it's a mind map. It's for your mind to be at ease with all the dump of information. But in the final document, you expand on this. All right, where did I find this? What are the links? Did I see it on Zillow.com or Trulia.com? Or what's the image of the house that I see on those big websites? What about Google Street View? What do I see in your driveway at that house location? So I'll add a lot more details, sources, pictures, and stuff in the final documentation. But those sections will look like this. Address, that's a higher level heading, and then underneath maybe subheadings will be each address or a primary residence and secondary or past residences. Same thing with phone numbers, current phone number, blah blah blah, where is it used in these social media things. And so whatever information you have around a category, I just bundle them up into 1 to 2 pages, nothing more than that, because you don't want to overwhelm the reader as well. So that's kind of my process. It starts with notes, like a simple notepad or Sublime text I use. From notes, it goes to a mind map, and from a mind map, it goes to the final Microsoft Word document and converted to a PDF and delivered to the customer. So that's kind of the 3-step process of documentation.
Sweet.
But yeah, I mean, this keeps going on, and this is not just people hunting. So OSINT is much bigger than that. It could be cryptocurrency hunting. It could be domains and DNS. So when we go into the more technical side of things, stuff like people know how to look up a domain ownership. If you're hunting for a scammer, for example, you want to know who owns this website. You could do a simple who is on hundreds of websites that are out there, or just do NS lookup, or who is on the command line as well, and you'll get some IP information, some information about their infrastructure, where they're hosting this stuff, who owns it now. But usually, like when people do whois lookups, it gives you the current lookup, like Hulk.com. If you look up on a whois record, it'll show you current information. CSC Corporate Domains owns it. All right, I don't know who that is. Some other info here, but that's about it. That's the current owner. But if you know websites that show you historical stuff like Hooksy or whoxy.com and do the same domain lookup there for Hulk.com, it'll show you the same information. The current information is as it is, but you scroll down and you start seeing historical information. Who owned Hulk.com in the past? 2015 onwards, it was owned by Marvel characters. And then in 2018, it was destroyed by Disney or owned by Disney afterwards. So you see all these changes of ownership that happen year after year.
That's very
And then,
cool.
yeah, and then I go deeper. I'm like, all right, now that you know domains and you know that historical records exist, if you're a programmer, if you're a web developer, your OSINT skills are slightly shifted now. It's no longer people hunting. It's no longer APIs and stuff. It's web development. Let's say CNN.com, or I'll just pick on this side. You go in either under the inspect tab or view page source, and you see the HTML behind it. And a lot of the things you don't see on the page, all the scripts and stuff. There's some keys in here. There may be some private information here. As a web developer, here you see an API key. I don't know what that is, but it says API key. It must be important. It's a public key. That's fine. But somewhere you'll see GTM dash. As a web developer, I know that that means Google Tag Manager, and that's a way to track Google Ads. And that stuff is unique per website. And if I copy that, I know that there's a website that exists that indexes websites based on the tags, the Google tags or the advertising IDs. It's called webtechsurvey.com/tag. And I can do tag lookups. If I just paste that same GTM Google Tag Manager ID in here and do a search, now it's doing a reverse search lookup. It says this Google tag was used in CNN.com. Correct. That's where I got it from. But it's also used in some of its subdomains. That makes sense too. But what is this initialnews.com that has the same tag? And if you're a web developer, you would know that you don't reuse these tags. They're unique to a website or a domain or a subdomain, because you want to track how many people came to the website, what kind of devices came to it. So I can assume one of two things here. Either the web developer was the same for CNN.com and initialnews.com, and he just used the same code and same analytics ID in both of them to keep it easy, or they are truly owned by the same parent company. If I go on initialnews.com, I can kind of verify from then on, is my initial assumption correct? Looks like a weird website, Scribble. Let's click on this. It's loading. Oh, it does say CNN, but it's kind of a weird website, but I see the logo, so I at least know ownership now. Um, it won't go through, but whatever. It's a odd website, but this is how you kind of connect the dots. And this may not have given you something immediately, but now you know that this technique exists where the tags are related to certain websites. So it's all about connecting the dots together.
That's a weird one because I wonder how often, if ever, you see like a fully cloned or like scraped website, if just to be put up as like an impersonation, watering hole attack, like phishing campaign, even sometimes. I wonder.
Yeah, you know, the canarytokens.org does something similar where you can hide a canary token inside a web page. And if your site is ever cloned, it'll give you a notification that, hey, this has been triggered from a domain other than your primary domain. So it means somebody just copied your website without really changing any scripts or code in the back end.
That's cool.
So interesting stuff there. And you know, now this can go even deeper and further into stuff like social media and other websites. I'll skip some of the social media stuff, but let's think outside the box in terms of alternate means of finding stuff. Like this was a challenge I had in one of my courses where I say, let's say you have a house like this that's kind of blurred and you can't see, and this is your target, and you want to see what's in the front of this house. Why are they blurring this? Most people would give up at this point and be like, all right, I can't see the cars parked here or the signs or whatever's in front, and this is the only thing that's available. So I teach people to look at alternatives. What's the alternative to like Google Maps, Google Street View in this case? There's Bing. Bing Maps does something similar. They also have something called a street side. Not as good, but if you're ever in a situation like this where all you have is a blurred picture, sure, try some of the other alternatives. And there's Apple Maps as well. So I always tell people, have you tried the Apple version of this, which is what maps dot apple.com. And this is fairly new. Last year, this didn't exist. The only way to do this was on an iPhone, iPad, or a Mac. But if you weren't on the Apple ecosystem, you couldn't browse the mapping system here. So if we put in, as a quick example, the same address here that stuff was blurred on Google Street View, and I go to Apple Maps and try to look for the same thing, it will show me Apple's version of Street View, which is called Look Around. And there it is, like not blurred. So now you should be aware that, like, from a privacy perspective, if I try to blur my stuff in Google, I should also blur my stuff in Apple and Bing to do a proper job at stuff. So the OSINT side enhances your privacy skills as well.
That one's wild because I've seen, you know, all the articles, all the write ups and the posts and the things that say like, oh, blur your house on Google Maps or blur your house on whatever
Right.
for Google Earth. I had never even thought of, oh, you know what? We could just kind of go around that by looking at a different service.
Yeah, and this type of advice should come from an OSINT expert. If
Yeah.
someone's telling you how to do privacy right, have they done OSINT properly? If not, I'm not taking advice from a marketing person or a sales guy who has no knowledge of OSINT to teach me how to do privacy. They'll only be able to touch, like you said, the surface stuff, what everyone knows. Everyone knows about Google. And these are the type of things that are on my portal, operationprivacy.com, is it's the anti-OSINT side of things. Here's 10 ways to look up your house, and here's 10 ways to remove it as well, not 2 ways. Like same thing with WIGO. You, anyone who does wireless pen testing knows WIGO is another, or Wiggle, however you want to pronounce it. Maps using satellite data as well, the same house, but now it's showing me SSIDs. Another way people leak data. So if I see, like, zoom into this house and I want to see what SSIDs exist outside of it, I may get lucky and say, you know, Dan's home Wi-Fi or something. All right, previously I didn't have a name, now I do. So it will leak certain other pieces of information, not just about the name of the SSID, but also the manufacturer. Because as this page is loading, you'll see in the background, MAC addresses as well, and the first half of it is the manufacturing ID. So you can at least tell a little bit about the person, or they use Cisco, or they're using Aruba as their access point or whatever. And if there's any vulnerabilities in it or something for a pen test, I can figure out more. So there's a lot of scope for this, not just for hunting for people, but for pen testing, for journalistic work, for data gathering. So it's data at the end of the day. You need to turn it into intelligence.
I know the SSIDs though, and using Wiggle or however you want to pronounce it, like those are especially damning because that can, I guess, sort of triangulate. I don't know if that's the right or
Yeah.
the best word for it, but that could basically get your just about pinpoint latitude and longitude over on the old world. So that is without
Yeah.
a doubt one to
Like you can see here, Dennis Lewis is right here. I know his location because it's his Wi-Fi SSID has his name on here, and you'll see a lot of this as you go down the list. So be careful. Sites like this exist. So if anything, this should spread awareness on the privacy side, saying, all right, someone can track me down if they just have my SSID. And this is what people do when they sniff beacons. You're in a different location and they have a sniffer around, a Raspberry Pi nowadays, and they're like, all right, Candy Kingdom is what I saw. Where in the world is this SSID with that MAC address or even without that MAC address? And you just do a reverse SSID search here and you find where on the map on WIGO that exists. And you can kind of triangulate and locate people like that. So it's a scary thing. But again, this is advanced OSINT stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And one last thing I'll show or talk about as we're approaching the end of this is more hacker type tools. So my area of expertise is on the hacker technique side of OSINT. So I use a lot of Kali Linux and stuff in my advanced courses. And a quick example of that is stuff like voter records. So there's a lot of these voting record portals, like the Florida voting record has basic information they ask for. I look at it from a mathematical perspective. It's asking me for variable A, B, and C, first name, last name, and date of birth. And if I answer these, it's going to give me D, which is an address. So I don't have an address, but I do have the first name, last name of a person, and in some cases, even the date of birth. So let's say if it's a popular personality like Dwayne Johnson, just writing DOB will give me his full date of birth, and entering that in a portal like this, the next step will be it gives me the address. So cool. If it works like this, what if I don't have the date of birth of a person? Can I guess the date of birth? Can I go through all the different possibilities of the year and month and day and stuff? A couple of thousand, maybe only a couple hundred. Maybe the person on Facebook, somebody wished him happy birthday on a certain day. Cool. I know the month, I know the day. I just don't know the year. And now my guesses have gone down to maybe 20, 30, because I have a range. I can automate this stuff using Burp Suite or Cato and just intercept the page and say, all right, go through 20, 30, 100 different years because I have everything else. And it becomes so much easier. The one hit that you get is like, all right, let's try it here. And your answer is the address at that point. So it's a very unique way of doing this. It's a technique, but then you could use this technique for so many other things, like we've mentioned in the past, hotel room, figuring out where people are in a hotel room, 50 other portals you can think of that have something similar as a front end, and then you're getting access to the back end. This is not logging in, it's just extracting data and finding out more information behind a portal. So yeah, a lot of out of the box type of thinking here and techniques that aren't normal, but when you're desperate, when you're looking for someone or some pieces of information, all these things count.
That one is very clever. Just the fact that, like, oh, you know what? We can define a key space for us to brute force within a birth date.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then you just, crank that through with Burp Suite or a Python script or whatever. It's like a CTF challenge in its own right. You're just finding an end person's address at the end of the day with a certain kind of flag to it. Yeah. That one's clever.
And this goes on and on. Like in my course, there's so many variations to this. Like there may be brute forcing methods using Kali, and then there may be other API methods with GitHub. There's a lot you could do there. Or I'll pivot straight into like the government side of things and like judyrecords.com, look at like data that's been scraped online. This is scraped versions of data that Judy Records is collecting for government records, and then you kind of correlate that with county records and pacer.com and kind of get to the source of the data. And then a lot of the times maybe that's not enough, and you look at peer-to-peer apps like Venmo.com and stuff. You can get a lot of basic information about a person's transactions in Venmo. This is asking me to sign in, so I'll just close that. But if Venmo shows me history, what does PayPal show me? Does it resolve a name to an email address and vice versa? Cool, that's more data. It's just trying to figure out those little chunks of data, not hacking, not logging in, not breaking the law anywhere, but trying to keep it all tight, legal, and all you're after is little chunks of information. When I look at breaches, I'm not after passwords. Those will change, those will have MFA. I'm after a home address that's in a breach, or the Park Mobile database had a license plate number there. So if I had a plate number, I could look at a breach and get an email address there. So it's just those one-to-one connections. And eventually, when you put all of that together, you get the bigger picture. And that's how you turn data into intelligence.
Awesome. Awesome stuff, Mishaal. Thank you. Thank you, as always. Thank you for showing off some of the magic tricks, all the crazy, wild, and cool things you can do with open source intelligence. And look, I know you've got a whole ton of material out and about for free on the internet between Operation Privacy and all the work that you're doing, your book. Hey, some of the material that's out and about for different training platforms, of course, just hacking training included. So thank you for all that you've offered there with the 3 different courses and material and the hack along trainings and everything.
There's also an OPSEC one on your platform. Yeah.
And that's honestly one of the most valuable ones, I think, because as all of us are exploring and learning a little bit more about this, there is that question of, okay, how do we protect ourselves? How do we take our own data off the internet? I did see one question that flew by in the chat. Are some of those like data broker removal services or those things that you might see an ad for all the time, are those worthwhile? Are those right?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. And I often have people who represent those companies attend my course as well to kind of get better at OSINT so they can find info. My answer now has slightly changed. Now I say yes and no. They have a place, they have a time and place. If you're paying a few bucks a month for a service, they're gonna do the bare minimum. They may take you out of the easy data brokers like the ones I went through, where the option is just click around a few times, fill out a form about your information, boom, submit. They send you like a verification code, click on that, and they've taken you out. But that's about 10% of the entire privacy spectrum. What I talk about in privacy is not just these data brokers, it's the premium data brokers like the LexisNexis that they're not going to take down your data. That's their entire business model. You have to present them with your ID, prove to them who you are, and then they'll suppress some of the data. There's all these credit bureaus. You got to freeze it. You got to have credit monitoring put up with it. There's other aspects of privacy, like your device privacy. In your phone, you can do a lot of things to make it private. In your laptop, there's laptop-based privacy, operating system privacy. There's home privacy, how you hide your home off the internet. Things like with Google, blur your home or take down requests from Zillow or somewhere else. Then there's utility bills, they leak your data. So these monthly services type of companies, they don't do any of that. They're not going to put your house in a trust or an LLC so you hide it from public records. Like when the cops pull me over, rarely, they see my plate number and they have no idea who I am because my car is under an LLC. So they see the company owns it, but they don't have that upfront information, a profile about me. All right, this guy's Mishaal, he has past records here or there, or this is what he does. They don't have any of that, so that they have to like ask from scratch. So I'm not giving them the opportunity to assume information about me, about my history. It's a layer of privacy. They can breach that layer of privacy. It's going to take them a lot more. But I'm not trying to hide from the cops or anything. I'm trying to hide from data brokers, scammers, extortionists, people who will try to cause me harm, people who will try to come after me because maybe I lagged in my OPSEC somewhere. That's where I'm trying to protect and hide my information. And these companies do maybe 10% of that. They have a time and place. So sure, do it if you don't have time. The surface level stuff is gone. But if you truly care about privacy, then you got to take it seriously. Advice on Operation Privacy is literally in a tiered approach. You're either on the conscious tier, you're on the serious tier, or you're ghost level private. And that's when you start spreading disinformation about yourself, about your address, about things you can't take down. Sure, flood the first page of Google with positive stuff so that your negative stuff or doxing stuff is on page 2 or 3 or whatever, which you can't take down. So there's all these dynamic strategies you can use for privacy. So it's a whole field on its own.
I really like that thought of, even putting intentionally incorrect info out and about. Well, hey, all of these gems, all of the sweet little, notifications of new tools, new opportunities, new tricks, all of that. I know you got to get a little bit of a glimpse of it while we've been getting a chance to hang out live and online, and a lot of on-demand stuff that Mishaal has put together for us, which is hacking training. But I do still want to hype up the fact, look, we're going to be in person. We're going to be hanging out live, kind of exclusive training at the workshop day for Bsides Chicago. The end of the month, there is a 10% off little discount still running around for this. So if you wanted to catch more of Mishaal's Level Up OSINT, more open source intelligence training, get even further than what we got to dive into here, because this is a full day training alongside anything from myself or the hardware hacking with Trevor or vibe coding with Ellie Daw. Some phenomenal stuff there, and I hate to be, beating the drum, beating a dead horse here, but I am so stoked for Bsides Chicago, and I really hope you tune in. I'll be there for the lock note, for the closing keynote, food included here for this workshop day, full day in-person interaction with all of us getting a chance to learn and hang out together. So I hope you can make it. I hope you tune in. We'll have some links flying around in the chat, but thank you so much, Mishaal, for spending some time with us to give us some of those little sneak peeks, give us some behind the scenes, and some more of your workflow and methodology for all the awesome things you've been up to.
Always my pleasure.
What's next for you, my friend? I know we're just getting the week started.
Yeah, lots of travel, training, talks. Oh, I have work too, so I have to run a business. So at this point, it's like 50-50. Like half the time I'm doing my own work, the other half training, talks, travel, and it's fun. One feeds into the other, so it has to be done. That's how I look at it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for hanging out with us. I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so I think I'll close us out with the sizzle reel one more time. A little bit more love and hype for JHT, but thank you all so much for hanging out with us. And with that, I'll clue us out. I'll see you on the interwebs, everybody. Learn cybersecurity and focus technical training with justhacking.com, where all-star instructors and industry experts provide hands-on, affordable, and practical learning. Across courses, free upskill challenges, hack-along training videos, and capture the flag competitions, there's always something to hack. With new content twice a month, all throughout the year, plus bi-monthly live streams, you can sharpen your skills in our on-demand and interactive lab environments. Advance your career and level up, regardless of your experience or budget. Forget all the noise and get to Just Hacking. Sign up now at justhacking.com.